Hi, it's Martin, Martin's Engine Services. Well, it's Wednesday, so it's time for what's happening in the workshop on a Wednesday. Well, as you can see, it's a pretty grey old day at the moment. It's been like this all day so far, but no rain yet. Very cold this morning, was quite a bit of an eye-opener when out to open the gate. Anyhow, what's been happening? Well, not a busting amount really. Did a little job for my neighbour yesterday morning on his 2006 combo van, Vauxhall Combo, which failed the MOT on one of those nice failures. Well, nothing serious. 2 track rod ends and 2 wiper blades. So, did that for him, and gave him a little drink for doing that. And in the process, also, he's got some bits and pieces of scrap metal he's clearing out, and I managed to find, which effectively, that's half of one there, 2 fronts off of a couple of storage radiators, which are made of exactly the right thickness metal to repair the bottom of the grass sweeper or grass sweeper collector. So I thought, aha, let's get creative. So I've got into action here. Unfortunately, neither of them are quite big enough to make one whole new base piece. So what I've thought I'm going to do, this part of the original base is fairly good. So I'm just going to join it. So I've made the new section for the front there. I'm now making these sides. Well, I'm making a side and an end. This side here, that's a little tatty, but it's still pretty solid and the curve's okay. So I'm going to reuse that. As you can see, it's got a rolled edge. It's got a rolled edge. This is one I prepared earlier. You can see the edge has been rolled over there. I've just folded it up and cut a couple of notches out. I don't know what the notches do, but I put them in. And that will go under there like that. So I'm now going to make up a similar section for the front here. I haven't got a curve for that corner, and I've no idea I'm going to make that. So we'll worry about that when we get to it. So how I'm actually folding these is my trusty 2 bits of angle iron in the vice job with a couple of G clamps on, and I've beaten the lip over to 90 degrees. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to then beat it all the way down so it's near enough flat, and then put the fold in it. I'll show you some of the processes along the way. There's something a bit different. On the tractor front, the battle of the tyres. This could be a whole saga on its own. Done one of the fronts. They are an absolute nightmare to break the beads on. They're such a small rim and they do not want to come off. And let me think. Yeah, that one's had a little bit of fixer flat or leak sealing, which I cleaned out. And it's a foul smelling brown liquid, like ammonia smelling. And it's very corrosive because when I dropped some on the vise when I was doing the tyre, it actually rusted the vise overnight. So I thought, lovely. So I put a tube in that one and that one's staying up. Now the one I thought was staying up has decided to start going down. And where's the other one? There's the other one that was always very good that suddenly went down, but I fixed that because I say the patch on that was only just covering the hole. So I've done that and she stayed up. So we've got 2 tyres now. So we're getting closer. Getting closer. I've done a little bit more painting of things, but that tubular frame that held the sacking around the back of the leaf collector, which was all rusted and broken through, is now all back together as one section and is now been painted. And what I actually did, which side was it? This side here had actually broken through the hole. So I've slid a piece of tube inside, cut a piece out to clear a countersunk. There's a little countersink in this side. So I slid it around that, and then I've welded it, seam welded around the join and put a few spot welds in. Then I put a new section in here, and I just split a bit of tube, slid it inside, got the size from the other one, and then so a couple of plug welds here, and then seam welded it both sides. Just tweaked it straight. It was a little bent through here. I've just straightened that, but that crispy, crusty pile of scrap tubing has cleaned up very well. This tube's actually quite good grade actually, because the rust has ground off and has left it very, very clean underneath. So it did look quite awful, but so no. I'll say a couple of handy bits I got from my dad's. He's got, seems to have an infinite supply of handy things. You know, nuts, bolts, brackets, bits of metal, bearings, and he's always got something in one of his sheds or wherever. You go and ask him, and he says, "Oh, I've got one of those in the shed or somewhere." So we can repair things. So that was a bit of a, not really a mission at all. It's a bit of a mission. On the contrary, actually, it was a very straightforward job. Didn't take too long to do at all. So very pleased with that. A few other bits over here been painted up, ready for action. So that's actually progressing very well. That horrible crispy bracket that was underneath the bottom of the collector looked awful. I've cleaned off the rust, and it's absolutely fine underneath. Strained it up, so ready to go. I know this is probably a little extreme actually, nobody would really bother doing this, but I say I've got nothing else to do. I'm up to date with my gardening and bits and pieces, and I'm rather quite enjoying the challenge of can I repair this? And as you know, keeps me quite amused. It's nice to be making things for a change, folding bits of metal and whatnot. I'm not the best at fabricating things. I can, reasonably okay, but some things will end up a little bit out of shape, but it is what it is. I don't do a lot of that sort of thing now. So it's one of those jobs, but I'm enjoying it. And it's keeping me occupied, and it's quite good fun of the challenge of can I mend what is essentially scrap. I said the other day the sleeper unit's ready to go, and it's looking good. So what I'll do, I'll put things on hold for a moment, and I'll flip that piece of metal over, and then I'll bring you back. So you don't want to watch me beating on that because it makes a right old noise. Having bent the top lip, I've just pulled it out of the angle, raised it up just about anywhere like that, doesn't matter. And I've been very, very gently just going along the top. Don't hit it hard at that angle because you'll bend it over. So literally just bounce it. So literally just bounce the hammer off it gently and it will just fold quite nicely. Now to fold it completely, so I'm going to take it out and just lay it on there and hammer it flat. Then I've got to do the other fold. And I'll tighten that fold up once it's out. It'll be sort of self-explanatory. So let me just beat that top lip near enough flat, and then I'll bring you back. Right, that's near enough for now. Just fold it till it's round on the edge. That'll do. Next stage, of course, is actually bend it over. Undo the vise first. Of course, one thing you've got to be very careful of, if you lay it down and then hit it this way, it will immediately bow the plate. You've got to turn it and go from both sides. But it will get straightened up in the end. There's a method to this madness. This is probably not exactly how you're supposed to do it, and a professional panel maker would probably be cringing at this, but this is the way I make things. Get it set up on the line, or just... And you've got to make sure you grip it both ends, otherwise it will tend to bow up as it's trying to work its way up the angle. These poor old trusty bits of angle arm have beaten some tin in their lives. Now, there's going to be a bit of noise here, so please stand by. But basically, I'm just going to bend this over. Actually, I'll bend some of it over and then I'll bring you back to the last stage just to show you how I do it, because otherwise it's going to drive you all deaf, I should think. Right, well, that's that phase nearly done. Because obviously now there's two layers of metal here. What's tended to happen, you can't see me, tended to happen, of course, is it's sitting slightly at an angle. You just got to raise it up now by about one metal thickness, then go all the way along carefully, a bit at a time. That will bring it to the 90 degrees and will also flatten the edge off nice and square. He says with confidence. Mind you, I can always cheat and cut to the one I prepared earlier that worked out all right. do the job nicely. I'll just do it. Right, just do. Yeah. So I'm thinking that. Well, I think that is near enough as we want. I've got to trim it a little bit each end, so there's always a very tendency for the ends just to roll a little bit. I won't really stop that. Now, if all's gone to plan, I think that end has, yeah, there's a slight roll there. I can soon get that out. There we go, and then we end up with a nice finished shape. Sort of, it's even roughly flat. In fact, it's pretty good. There's a slight tendency for it to do that a little bit, but that doesn't matter. So that is another side. Oh, no, that's the end. Let's not make the wrong part. So it's just a question now of landing on there and just cut these out. Just got to think about the overlap and the rest of it. And then I've got to make the corners. Now the corners are going to be very difficult because me making curves is never a pretty sight. So I've no idea how I'm going to get around that one. But we'll come back to that one in a moment. So I've got one usable curve, needs straightening. And then I think I'll just grip it all together with the new base piece and sort of see what happens. So I'll just finish a bit more off on that, and then we'll have a rough assembly and see how it's going. Right, we've done a bit of fiddling around, a bit of fettling. So there we have. Yeah, this bit is pretty horrible. I've just realised I've actually got enough metal left there now to make the other section of that. So that's got a folded lip on, won't be hard. So basically that's how it goes. That's that section I've just made here. So without the flooring, you effectively get that. You effectively get that. That's how it works. And then there's a frame bolts underneath that supports all the sides and everything, and that bolts through these three holes here. That's what the slots are for. Got it now. And this was actually riveted to this with flat rivets. I'll probably just spot weld it. So I could make the rest of this floor now actually, and then join it under that strip. They've only got a folder lip on the back there, and they slot in. Yes, they slot in at the ends. That's right. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I could soon make one of those or another section of that, and then I'll have a whole new floor. So it's coming on rather well. So ignoring that corner, there's nothing to see here. I've got to straighten this out a little bit. I just find something to beat this round because it's shrunk a little bit. And that's got to be trimmed off by about a centimetre, and that should fit there. So I'll be able to just weld that up there. Weld will split up in that, and then work it off that. So I've made the front of that from the original floor, so I know that's exactly the same size. So it's just got to fit round it. And that frame I've refurbished, the bag frame, sits just inside here. And sits against that, and there's a couple of clamps up there. I've got to make a new clamp. So I had it somewhere. Oh, there it is. I just got to make one of these. beat a piece of metal that just screws down like that, and the tube just goes underneath it. So no big disaster there. And then I've actually got all the parts I need, so I'm actually missing absolutely nothing. Yes, it's tea time again. In fact, I think I've lost the biscuit somewhere on my travels. Shock horror. But no, that's what I'm up to. I thought I would slightly extend the video and show you a bit of what's been happening and whatnot. And I'll make that other piece up now. I didn't actually realise I had enough metal actually. So that's actually worked out well. So my neighbour I said to him, "Oh, can I raid your scrap pile?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "All those radiator covers look good." And he gave me a quizzical look. He said, "What are you going to do with them?" I said, "Make the bottom of my lawnmower, or my leaf collector out of them." He never seems to be amazed at what I will make things out of. So I do like to recycle. And so it's perfect gauge steel. So brilliant. Recycle and reuse, why not? So I'm not really too. There's a bit of rust in the lip on there. I'm clean that up. I'm not too fussed about this. It's got a job to do, and that'll give it a few good coats of red oxide, and that'll hold together fine. So if it's held together all those years without any paint on it and just all rusty and hanging apart, and it was still working because the guy was still using it, so I can improve upon it, shall we say. So that's basically what's happening. So I've no idea what's been much happening else the rest of the week. A friend of mine's popping up Saturday to do a job, and another friend of mine's coming up for the weekend. So we have a bit of Saturday club, which was always something that used to happen in my old workshop when I was in North London. That used to happen a lot, Saturday club, and all my mates would turn up, take cars to pieces, and my other two pals who used to do gardening used to take their lawnmowers to pieces and whatnot. By about 4 o'clock, there was cars and lawnmowers everywhere, and everybody was trying to finish to go home, and I usually end up trying to reassemble everything. So we did used to have quite a lot of fun, and it'd be quite nice actually, a bit of a reinstate an old tradition, the Saturday club. Some days it got a bit manic. So one good friend of mine, he does like to take things. He's always a bit of a standing joke. He'd take a lawnmower to pieces, and you never could quite find all the parts. So we used to have a lot, or we still have a laugh about that really. Bolts used to disappear and bits on. It was always quite an eventful procedure. I mean, sometimes I could end up with about 8 or 9 people there, and we actually had a large tea urn on the go, great big water boiler, and we should make tea all day. So it was quite good fun actually. So it'd be good dates on Saturday. Looking forward to that. And that's about it really. I've got a couple of jobs in next week, but so this week has been very, very quiet. Still, so it's end of holiday season, so only to be expected. Anyhow, I've got plenty to be getting on with, so I'm going to carry on bashing bits of rusty old metal around. I hope you enjoyed this slightly longer than normal What's Happening Wednesday video. I just thought I'd bring you along and show you some sort of creativity. Or, I suppose it's creativity, but see what I'm up to. Anyhow, thanks very much indeed for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Bye for now.